Hello again, happy Earth Day. We are less than a week out from our last scheduled class date. And so I need to tell you about exam and report options. The final exam is optional, not required, and will be treated as extra credit, worth up to 5 runs if you need those runs to boost your final course grade. Unless you choose to expand your exam essay and substitute it for the final report blog post, which is an option. You can read about all this at your leisure if you wish. I posted this information on the site yesterday under the heading Exam and Final Report. If you're doing it as extra credit, you need to post your response to the final exam question by 6 p.m. Tuesday, April the 28th. And here that question is. Imagine you are joined by Kurt Anderson, John Cagg, Rene Descartes, William James, and Peter Singer at your favorite coffee house or some other public establishment, your choice. Transcribe the conversation you imagine you might have with them. Beginning with the question, why do truth, facts, and reality matter? And also including their responses and yours to the really vital question, as William James named it, the really vital question for us all. What is this world going to be? What is life eventually going to make of itself? Base their statements on our texts. Fantasyland, American Philosophy, A Love Story, The Little History of Philosophy, and your own documented research, if you do any, outside of our texts. Indicate sources parenthetically. You can see the examples in the post, but for instance, if you're using material from The Little History of Philosophy, just put in parentheses LH and the page number or numbers that are relevant to the thing that you're citing, quoting, paraphrasing, whatever. So indicate your sources parenthetically, and if you introduce new material based on your research, put in a footnote and give some abbreviation to go with it. And use that in the main body of your text. Have fun with this format. Be as faithful to their actual views as possible. And be creative. So here's a for instance. And you're going to write this like a dialogue, so you'll have the name of each speaker in turn, including your own name when you speak. And let's say that Anderson is speaking. Kurt Anderson, who says, "Our history in America has been one of fantasy. Too many of us have supposed ourselves entitled not merely to our own opinions, but to our own facts. We've played fast and loose with reality and the truth. We've even made fun of the so-called reality-based community." Parenthetical reference, FL 3, Fantasyland, page 3. That's where Anderson references the old Bush administration advisor who spoke derisively of the reality-based community. And that reality-based community might be another name for philosophy. John Cagg then says, "Indeed, but America has also been the birthplace of the philosophical tradition known as pragmatism, which attempts to judge truth, quote, on the basis of its practical consequences, on its ability to negotiate and enrich human experience." AP 17. And then William James speaks up. "Precisely, we must use words, concepts, and ideas as tools to help us answer the really vital question for us all. What is this world going to be? What is life eventually going to make of itself?" And here the parenthetical reference is a bit different, since this would have been based on additional research. James, Pragmatism 3. That's for Lecture 3 in his book Pragmatism, and I've got that hyperlinked. By the way, if you don't know how to hyperlink stuff, it's very easy. You just highlight whatever you want to link to and insert the link. You copy and paste. Same way with YouTube videos. You just copy the embed code and paste that into into the post. But do take a look after you publish to make sure that the format was correct, the formatting was correct, that it didn't spill over into the right sidebar past the margin. And if it did, then fix it. Shrink it. If you don't know how to do that, you can ask me or somebody else who knows. Or you could look it up on Google. Okay, so back to our conversation. Then Rene Descartes enters the fray and says, "That all sounds a little vague to me, James, a little uncertain. My view as a rationalist philosopher is that philosophy is more than a tool. It is a mirror of reality that allows us to know the truth with absolute, indubitable certainty. Unlike Pyrrho and his followers, I aim to show that some beliefs are immune from even the strongest forms of skepticism." LH 54. Oh, sorry, 64. And then Peter Singer, who is the last philosopher in the little history. Peter Singer is a contemporary of ours, considered a premier utilitarian ethicist. And he addresses Descartes. He says, "Be careful, Rene. The quest for certainty all too often reinforces people's worst instincts and behaviors. You yourself claimed to know for certain that non-human animals could not feel pain the same way that humans do. Such certainty can lead to what I call speciesism, which is like racism or sexism." And then you enter the conversation, and I leave it to you to say whatever you would say to any or all of those philosophers. So that's the way it should go. And you should have the philosophers interact with one another as well as with you. Feel free to mention other philosophers that we have encountered. For instance, you could ask Descartes what he thinks of Montaigne. I don't think he's going to think much of him. You may have to tell him some of the things Montaigne said, because they were not contemporaries. Montaigne was a little bit earlier. I'm guessing Descartes would not have liked Montaigne's version of skepticism. Again, cite your sources parenthetically, and if you do additional research, include relevant footnotes. If you're doing this project as extra credit, then again, it needs to be in on Tuesday the 28th by 6 p.m., and it should be 800 words or more. 800 words is roughly 3 pages, three printed pages. And the optional exam to be due on Tuesday, 28th, is separate from the final report blog post. Final report blog post, if that's what you want to do as your main final project. And the final version of it is due on the 5th of May, the following Tuesday. And as a blog post, it's more than just words and text. It should include bloggish elements such as hyperlinks, images, video embeds. Again, you copy and paste the embed code that is right there below the video on YouTube, or wherever you got the video. They usually include an embed code these days. And just make it look good visually. It should have visual content as well as words. And so I say for a word count, at least 500 words, but I'm not hung up on the word count for the blog post. Your focus should not be on, counting the words. It should be on providing quality content, which includes not just words, but images, videos, hyperlinks. Don't just put in a long URL address, but actually copy and paste that link onto the text that you want to link from. And again, if you don't know how to do that, it's easy to do. Look it up or ask somebody who knows. But if you're doing the final report blog post as your final project, then, as I say, due on the 5th of May, I urge you to put up an earlier draft so that I can get an advanced look at it and give you some feedback, and your classmates as well, give them an opportunity to give you some constructive feedback. Do always make sure that your formatting is correct after you push that publish button. Topic, you can continue with the same general topic that you worked on for the midterm report if you wish. Or you can take on something else. Now, if you want to focus on a particular philosopher, it should be somebody post-Descartes or after, chronologically. So, 17th century forward to our time, if you're focusing on a particular philosopher or philosophers for your final report blog post. Other than that, any relevant topic that you think is philosophically significant is fair game. If you're not sure whether your topic is acceptable, just ask me, and I'll let you know. Chances are good that I will approve. I encourage creativity and different looks at this material from convention. What else to tell you? Well, I think I've told you pretty much everything you need to know about this project. If you wish to expand your exam dialogue to 2,000 plus words, then you may substitute it for the final report. If you want to do a longer conversation with those philosophers, then that can be your final report. You do have the opportunity to make that decision later. You could go ahead and post a shorter version for extra credit, and then decide, you know what, I want to continue with this and do the longer version and call that my report. You can do that. You've got the option to do so right up until May the 5th. When you post, whatever you post, be sure to always include your section number with your exam and or your final report blog post. And in one of your last posts, or all of your last posts, be sure to include the grand total of runs that you believe you have earned since we resumed the semester remotely, right? You were eligible to earn up to 2 runs per week, following the same template that you're eligible to earn up to 1 run per class, participation run. You get that by accumulating 4 bases. And since we got 2 classes per week, even though we're not meeting physically on Tuesdays and Thursdays, that means the potential to earn 8 bases, that is 2 runs per week. And so you should have been keeping careful count of that and sending me a weekly tally. And so you should be able to add up all of those post-spring break weeks and send that information along. The grand total at the end, tell me how many runs you think you've earned since we started the post-spring break remote semester, pandemic you. And if you know how many runs you had before the break on the scorecard, go ahead and include that in your grand total and indicate that you're including your total grand total, including pre-break runs as well as post-break. If you don't know your pre-break runs, that's okay. Just be very clear that you're identifying the number of runs you think you're entitled to claim since we resumed the semester. Right? And I'll fill in the rest by looking at the scorecard myself. Again, have fun with this project, with these projects, and I look forward to reading your contributions, and I hope your classmates will as well. All right, talk to you later.